As Naruto fans, a large part of the joy in following Naruto's generation through their ninja journey is seeing the cast transition from being part of that larger academy graduating class that were praying that they would be one of the 9 who were selected to become Genin and not sent back to the academy like all their peers, and then watching them go through all their trials and tribulations to become the adults and the pillars to the village that we see in Boruto, leading this next generation of Konoha shinobi. However, as it is with any good story, there comes a moment in time where the characters, they get smacked in the face by the harsh reality of life, and one of the most iconic moments is when Shikamaru is dealing with the grief that comes from Asuma's death. That anime-only scene of Shikamaru breaking down into tears while in the presence of his father, it is one of the most iconic moments in the series. While it never happened in the manga, it's one that many fans will point to as being one of the most impactful moments of emotional writing in the Naruto franchise. However, in today's newest Naruto Explained video, I want to pull back the curtain a bit, and I want to take a look at the deeper lessons that Shikamaru's character has learned, not just from this moment, but also other moments in the series that have taught him the same lessons, overarching lessons, which ultimately prepared him for the role of 8th Hokage, which he is currently serving in the role of in Boruto 2 Blue Vortex. As is usually the case with videos on this channel, I'll be using the Naruto manga for the foundation of my knowledge base. Some of this will include information and takes on the character that will be slightly different if you're an anime-only fan. Shikamaru's evolution into a formidable leader within the shinobi world, it is marked by the profound personal trials and philosophical growth. His journey, punctuated by critical moments of loss and introspection, it mirrors principles in Zen Buddhism and the Samurai Code, both of which emphasize acceptance and impermanence, and discipline, reflection, and the pursuit of one's inner balance. Those are all things that are consistently written in Naruto's story, despite Naruto being a story about ninjas and not samurai. First, we're going to start with the aftermath of the Sasuke retrieval mission. This is one of the most important steps that Shikamaru ever takes on this journey to becoming Hokage. At the tender age of 13, Shikamaru was entrusted with leading a mission to retrieve Sasuke Uchiha. The mission's near catastrophic outcome, with his team's lives hanging by a thread, it plunged Shikamaru into a pit of self-reproach and doubt. It was during this vulnerable period that Temari, a comrade from the Sand Village, she comforted him with a sobering truth. As a leader, he should have been psychologically prepared for the inevitability of sacrifices being required on a mission. Temari's candid counsel, it underscores a fundamental tenet of the samurai stories itself, the acceptance of death as an inherent aspect of a warrior's path. Samurai, in extension in the Naruto world, they are taught to embrace the transient nature of life, understanding that attachment to outcomes, they could cloud judgment and impede decisive action. This philosophy is encapsulated in Zen Buddhist concept of impermanence, which teaches that all phenomena are in a constant flux, and clinging to permanence leads to suffering. By internalizing this lesson, Shikamaru began to comprehend that leadership necessitates a readiness to face loss, not just resignation, but a clear-eyed acknowledgement of the possibility. This is one of several examples of how the Naruto franchise uses the Buddhist concept of samsara, the cycle of suffering. This is part of the suffering for Shikamaru. To further reinforce this lesson, Shikamaru's own father imparts him with wisdom that ends up being a cornerstone of Shikamaru's growth in the series. His father emphasized that while missions would always carry risk, Shikamaru's leadership could be the linchpin in ensuring that his comrades survive in the future. He urged Shikamaru to channel that pain of failure into a catalyst for self-improvement, highlighting that true commitment to his friends means persevering as a shinobi. As we're told countless times in Naruto's manga, what do shinobi do? shinobi endure, despite all the inherent dangers that they face. This guidance reflects the Zen practice of zazen, or seated meditation, whereas practitioners confront their inmost fears and their desires and end up fostering a profound self-awareness that informs their actions. For Shikamaru, this meant transforming his anguish into a driving force for a strategic refinement, embodying the samurai pursuit of continuous self-cultivation and resilience in the face of adversity. Again, this is a story about ninjas, but Kishimoto is a huge samurai fan, and Naruto as a franchise uses a ton of samurai influences. This brings us to the death of Asuma. Approximately 2.5 years later in the timeline, Shikamaru faced another defining moment on his journey to be Hokage, with the death of his mentor Asuma Sarutobi at the hands of the Akatsuki member Hidan. Unlike his previous response to loss, where Temari and his father, they had to walk him back onto the path of being a shinobi, Shikamaru chose to forego Asuma's funeral, opting instead for a solitary contemplation. This decision signifies a maturation in his coping mechanisms. He no longer sought external validation or guidance, but he turned inward to process his grief and come up with a strategy for his response. In the manga, this introspective period is marked by several symbolic actions. Shikamaru smoking Asuma's cigarettes, allowing the rain to mask his tears as he watched Asuma die, and his continued smoking of Asuma's cigarettes through the grieving process for the entire 6 days after Asuma's death and the eventual rematch with Hidan and Kakuzu. He did the same thing. It was a way of both calming his nerves by smoking, but also keeping his mentor close to him, and we would see the payoff to this when Shikamaru would smoke one last cigarette when fighting Hidan, and as he was preparing to kill him, Asuma's ghost would form out the cigarette smoke as if to tell Shikamaru from beyond the grave that he was proud of him and that he no longer had to carry the burden anymore. It would be a giant payoff when you see him use that very cigarette that produced Asuma's ghost in the form of smoke and use that to kill Hidan, the man who murdered his mentor. This hits harder when you take a closer look at how it is that we got here. While in solitude, without needing anyone like his father to step in once again to guide him, Shikamaru showed that the lesson that his father taught him in Naruto Volume 26 by being able to deal with trauma of losing his mentor on a mission where Shikamaru was the one calling the shots of a strategy, and his failure resulted in Asuma's faith in him accumulating in Shikamaru watching his master die and knowing that his mentor would never get to see his daughter grow up and become a shinobi. However, in spite of this, Shikamaru, by immersing himself in shogi, a game that mirrors battlefield tactics, he pushed himself through his grief on his own, and he did what his father told him 2.5 years ago, which was to reflect on his mistakes and how to become a better leader so that next time the outcome could be different. These actions are emblematic of Zen principles of mindfulness, fully engaging with the present moment and one's own emotions without distraction. By embracing his pain and deeply reflecting on the circumstances that led to Asuma's death, Shikamaru embodies the samurai's disciplined approach to mourning and vengeance, ensuring that his actions are purposeful rather than driven by unchecked emotion. We see further payoff of this lesson that Shikamaru learned via Kakashi's perspective, Kakashi being a legend in the Anbu Black Ops. Even when he was shocked at how easily Shikamaru was able to adjust his plan to account for Kakashi and make use of Kakashi's strengths when they looked to avenge Asuma, even then, Shikamaru was getting acknowledgement from Kakashi and silent praise. While Shikamaru at the time, he lacked the power to go blow for blow with Hidan and Kakuzu, he did show that he had plans in place to keep his comrades alive, like when he used that sealing scroll to defend Team 10 from one of Kakuzu's attacks, and he followed Kakashi's lead more than once during that fight, relying on the older and more powerful and more experienced shinobi to be the one that guided him through a battle that he wasn't yet physically able to participate in, yet his spirit was more than powerful enough to meet that requirement to be on the battlefield. Shikamaru, his commitment to honoring Asuma's legacy is a further moment demonstrated in his promise to mentor Asuma's unborn child and his meticulous preparation to confront Hidan and Kakuzu. His dedication to mastering Asuma's chakra blades and devising that strategic plan for retribution, it reflects the samurai's devotion to both their mentors and the art of combat itself. This period of disciplined training over 6 days and the studying, it underscores the importance of preparedness and the pursuit of excellence, which is the hallmark of both Zen and samurai traditions. Those lessons continue to overlap when you get to the Fourth Shinobi War and the loss of Shikamaru's father. During the Fourth Shinobi War, Shikamaru endured the devastating loss of his father, who perished in the assault by the Ten Tails. In his final moments, his dad imparted a crucial lesson to his son. Life is unpredictable, and as a leader, one must be prepared to shoulder the mantle of responsibility when called upon, as the lives of others will depend on your guidance. This farewell encapsulates the essence of the samurai readiness in order to face death and the Zen acceptance of life impermanence. In the immediate aftermath, Shikamaru, he demonstrated a remarkable composure even though he himself was grieving, and he displayed a strategic acumen by devising a plan to protect the Shinobi Alliance from further attacks by learning a super easy Earth Release Jutsu, and that was used to protect the Alliance. His ability to suppress personal grief to fulfill his duties, it mirrors the Zen practice of detachment, not an absence of emotion, but the capacity to act with clarity despite emotional turmoil. This balance between feeling and function, it is critical for effective leadership, allowing one to honor the past while navigating the present challenges, and this makes what Shikamaru did that much more impressive when you realize he now had the maturity to do it in real time, which is what Temari and Shikamaru's father were trying to teach him all the way back in Naruto Part 1. And it makes sense that Temari was able to give Shikamaru that lesson in Naruto Part 1 because Temari was 4 years older than Shikamaru. Then it gets even harder here when you realize that this leads to Shikamaru once again learning this lesson and acting from it when you look at his ascension to the role of Hokage. 19 years after the Fourth Ninja War ended, Shikamaru is the 8th Hokage in Boruto 2 Blue Vortex. His journey, it culminated in his reluctant assumption of the Hokage position, following what was announced as the death of Naruto Uzumaki, stepping into that role previously held by his close friend, someone he was an advisor to, and most importantly, the village's greatest hero in the entirety of the ninja world. Naruto represented hope itself, and with Naruto being gone, hope itself was taken away from the ninja world. Shikamaru faced the daunting task of leading a world that was fraught with instability. You had the emergence of new threats such as Code's ambitions for a chakra fruit, Sasuke's status of a rogue ninja, everyone believing that Sasuke had turned his back on the village to help Naruto's killer Boruto escape, and it changed everything. Naruto by himself being gone, that was a huge blow. Even without the power of the Nine Tails, Naruto still possessed the power to destroy the 5 nations on his own, but to lose Sasuke, someone who by that point in the story is arguably stronger than Naruto is now, to lose that is to basically lose 2 nuclear warheads in a war where there are only a small number of nukes held by both sides. This era is what I would like to call a world without Naruto, or AN after Naruto. It required a leader who is capable of cold, analytical decision-making tempered by genuine empathy. For 3 years, Shikamaru put those lessons he learned all the way to work as he came up with a counter strategy like we saw in Chapter 1 of 2 Blue Vortex, where they were actively patrolling for Code's claw marks to remove all possible paths into the village, and when Code did begin his invasion, despite being caught off guard, Shikamaru quickly had shinobi getting citizens to evacuation areas and others containing the threat of the claw grimes, and he he was in the central command, working with the sensory unit to monitor everything and making adjustments when he told everyone that Boruto had arrived. When he was given the information via Amato's conversation with Sumire that all their memories had been altered, he was willing to listen to Boruto to get a different perspective and defy logic in order to seek the truth so as to better protect the village. Shikamaru's early experiences with loss and his embrace of Zen and samurai principles, it equipped him with the necessary qualities to navigate this very complex landscape. His understanding of impermanence through all the trials and tribulations, it allowed him to accept the evolving nature of peace and conflict and the duality of both. And while his disciplined reflection ensured that each decision was informed both by intellect and emotion, this synthesis of analytical prowess and emotional intelligence enabled Shikamaru to honor the legacies of those who he lost, Asuma and his father, even Neji to an extent, but also allowed him to lead with wisdom, compassion, and unwavering dedication to the village's well-being, all while carrying that burden of knowing he is walking in the shoes of a great man, Naruto, who he believes to be dead. Everything that Shikamaru's character's been hit with, it hits him even harder, and it hits you harder as a reader when you realize the growth that he's undergone by being able to stand on his own. He only needed to be told once to not run away from his duties, and learning that his teammates survived the battles with the Sound Four. It gave him a second chance to make things right. It gave him a second chance to grow into a capable leader. Having to face the death of Asuma alone, it showed immense growth for his character. In part 2 of the story of Naruto, which deals so much with the themes of children growing through pain to become adults who will guide the next generation through this cruel ninja world. That moment where he was able to dig through that pain on his own to get past Asuma's death, it will prepare him for the next transition from losing a father figure to losing a literal father, and it would also serve as a preparation for the next phase in his life. Just as he would be reluctantly thrusted into the role of the brain of the Shinobi Alliance, he would also be thrust into the role of Hokage reluctantly, which is very much in character for Shikamaru, and it goes back to Asuma's death being so important for his character growth. One of the last things Shikamaru was told by Asuma was that he would make a good Hokage, but he would probably run from the position due to hating the work that came from it. Yet here we see Shikamaru embrace the work and prove Asuma's faith in him that he would be a Hokage, a good Hokage, correct? And it's all because Shikamaru grew from that trauma that started when he was 13 years old. Obviously, if you enjoyed this video, consider subscribing and clicking here on the left for more videos from Naruto Explained. Click here up top for the new video from my Everything One Piece Explained channel, or click here on the right for the latest video for my Anime Explained channel where I talk about non-Naruto content.